So good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet. My name is Odur Jakero, and we are going to be talking about data, and we're going to be talking about money, and how these things all converge together. So today we are at the ADC, Africa Data Center, here in Nairobi, and we are going to be talking to the people that are basically running it. And I am going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to discuss all about data. I will start with the ladies on my left.
Hi, my name is Barbara Roberto, and I look after customer success for the region.
Okay, great. And then we have
Maggie Miner. I head the commercial for East Africa.
All right, great. And then on my right is the gentleman that leads the team.
Thank you. My name's Dan Kwach. Yeah, I have the privilege of taking the leadership of the East African team. So yeah, thank you.
All right, great. So we are going to be talking about, we are going to be starting with a story. There is a war that went over the internet when data was taken from the people of Facebook, and something fishy was done with it. And then people were wondering, where is this data? Can I go take data and put it in my pocket? Can I do this to data? Can I do this to data? So I wanted, Mr. Dan, I wanted you to give us an overview of when people talk about data and you holding data. What is it? Can people touch it?
You're right, Ken. Data is something that is intangible.
Yeah.
So it's an asset that no one can actually touch. But again, on the flip side, you can lay your hands on it. So that is how difficult it is to describe data. What I really mean is it's something, it's information.
Yeah.
And what really matters in the market is getting access to that information. What matters in the market is making good use of that information. So you can make good use of that information because it's content that is valuable.
Yeah.
It could be something that is educative, so definitely that will add value to your life. It could be something that gives you an insight on your customers.
Yeah.
You go speaking to a customer, to a banking institution today, asking them for some service. There's the KYC or know your customer, so they want to know about you.
Yeah.
But there's a very good conversation we were having this very week on what I call digital disruption caucus, which we are part of. And one gentleman was actually making a proposition that is, instead of us focusing on knowing your customer, the market is even shifting, and customers now want to know who their service providers are.
Yeah.
So in as much as they say KYC, ourselves,
what is KYC?
KYC, which is know your customer.
Yeah.
We want to change it, and it's going to be know your service provider. So information about your customer is okay, but in same way, as you consume services as a customer, you also want to get to know who your service provider is.
Yeah.
So all these are facets of information that you'll want to lay your hands on because it's of value to you. It can be educational, like I said, but it can be something that also talks to who your customers are, and in which case, if it talks about your customer insight, as a service provider, it's helpful for me to know what really excites my customer.
Yeah.
And if I get to know what excites my customer, then I need to focus on that.
Yeah.
Now, if there is anything that I'm doing that is distracting my customer or sort of not appealing to them, then I also need to know it so that I do less of it, if not really just stop doing it. So ourselves as Africa Data Centers, if I can go back to just our operation, we also like it that we are really in the thick of things when we are talking about data, because we host our customers' digital infrastructure, and this digital infrastructure can be something that they make use of in their day-to-day operations. It can be something that they then get to use so that they can offer rich content to end users in the market. It can be something that they also make use of so that they can know how to treat their customers right, especially the over 50% of banking institutions that we have in Kenya. But allow me to maybe ask Barbara to jump in from a customer experience perspective, and also just give a correlation in terms of if you are doing it right because you know who your customer is. She's been an advocate for customer intimacy in this organization, so that's how comes I would really want.
So before Barbara jumps in, I want to go back to you again and ask you something. And I asked one of the gentlemen that was taking us for a tour, and he told me that this is something that Dan really knows and is going to explain it. And this is the question. So there are people, there are banks, there are telcos, there are all these guys that are asking ADC, hold our data. and help us secure it. So why do you think a bank would not want to go to their basement, put on a data center, and run it from there?
Because it's not their core business.
Yeah.
I will say that is the most compelling reason why any customers that we are hosting today really see it right, that as opposed to them building that strong server room, while it's going to take a lot of their money, why don't they come to Africa Data Centers, which is an environment that is shared by different customers, and then going to eliminate the need for me spending on what is non-core to me. So a banking institution will want to focus more on what is going to help them serve the customers more, as opposed to using their money in something that is non-core. So if they can come and lease it from us, then that is more viable than them building and operating their own. So what we do is to help them on that front, at least from a cost perspective. But I think the other reasons are intangible, and those could tie into what's the quality of service that they get from us, because having it in your own environment is something that you can, but at what cost? It can be that you have to then have a team that is experienced, skilled enough to go supporting those elements that support that environment. That is going to cost you a lot more money. But at times, you might actually lack expert skills to run those environments. At Africa Data Centers, we've got the best of skills, and that's how comes anyone bringing their infrastructure in our space, we guarantee them 99.982%, which really is a language that I can change to mean we tell our banking customers, bring your infrastructure in our space. They will never go down due to any environmental challenges. Should they do, then that should not go beyond 8 minutes in a calendar month. That is something a chief information officer or a head of IT in a bank will be comfortable. And also we give them that peace of mind. They don't need to struggle. They don't need to be thinking of really what's happening in the server room, what's happening to the UPS, what's happening about security. We've taken
do we have a generator that can run for 55 days?
Oh, trust you me, we've demonstrated that in so many ways.
You are telling Barbara to jump in and ask.
Yes, and I think just on both fronts, she can probably also just chip in on matters, quality of service and what our customers experience.
So thank you so much, Dan. And to add on to that, I think that one of the most compelling reasons why customers would be considering or picking us to be their provider would be that we are customer obsessed. That is in our DNA, it's in our blood. Each and every employee is customer obsessed within this organization. And what do we mean by customer obsession? We make sure we start with the customer and end with the customer throughout the entire customer journey process, such that by the time the customer is set up, they are happy, and each and every process for them was a pleasant experience. And we strive to do this also by ensuring we set up our customers within the shortest amount of time possible, so that they're up and running and their business continues seamlessly. Also, another thing is we ensure that we take feedback from our customers very seriously, implement any changes that have been suggested by our customers, and we enjoy taking feedback and listening to our customers every so often. And no customer is small for us. How we will treat that big customer worth X billion Kenya shillings is exactly how we'll treat that startup that is coming to set up here. So we ensure we do not segregate, and we do not treat our customers any differently.
I understand that, because when we were going for the tour, we were told that there are people who have cages, and then there are people who have the rack, and then there are people who can have a quarter of the rack. So each and every person is enjoying the same service. But then, do you have something to add?
On top of what Barbara has said, we also ensure that we put in the rich ecosystem just to make sure that our customers are able to tap from that. And by ecosystem, I mean having the right carriers, local and international, on board. So you have a variety to choose from. And also we have the services that you require, be it a financial sector, be it a carrier, be it the internet exchange points. We host quite a number of layers that will actually ensure and enable our customers get value for their money. So we don't just host, but we take away that headache and put a layer on top to ensure that you're able to operate at your optimal.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go back to Dan, and let's talk about what is data. Let's talk, for example, a bank.
Yeah.
What kind of data is a bank, storing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as we can tell, I always say, whatever we do in our lives, you can actually extrapolate it to what happens in the organization.
Yes.
We are seated here, and we are so much attached to technology.
Yes.
We use our mobile phones, we use our laptops, we do use a lot of the digital platforms to go about our business. We go about our business by storing critical data in it. We go about our business by accessing applications that enable us do certain things in life and at the workplace as well. The same thing happens in the organization. So a banking institution or an IT manager today has to contend with the headache of making sure that they can do things quicker.
Yes.
How do you do things quicker? I think we are beyond the information age, and we are now talking of the digital age. So this digital age, where we are and in the computer era, so to speak, it's much easier that you have your data in electronic format.
Yeah.
It then becomes easier to host a lot more content at a lesser cost.
Yes.
So what will this content be? For an IT manager in a banking institution, information about your customer, that's digital data that you have to store.
Yeah.
Information about the organization, which is internal. So there's both internal and external data. So the internal data around your own staff, internal applications that you also make use of within the organization. Yeah. An organization could be using a human resource platform that is digital. So that is a digital application. You could be making use of a financial management tool that is also digital. So there are a lot of tools that are in digital format that get used by organizations, and the only reason we get to use that is because they add value in the business. So IT is used as a business enabler. I always say, let's not look at IT or information technology in its technical form, but let's think of how is it making us conduct or go about our business with a lot more ease. So it's a lot more ease because if I needed data about my staff, I can easily access it, and I can access it from anywhere. If I needed to access an application, multiple staff members can actually access the same application and make sure that there is collaboration. And that makes an organization agile or makes an organization do things faster. If you need to have insights on how the business is doing, again, that is available digitally, and you can make use of that so that you can see where should you be investing more, where should you be having a lot more focus, because ultimately, if your customers are happy, then yourself, you'll be happy. So there are different facets of digital information. Compliance is something that is critical for banking institutions. So a banking institution will want to make sure that they can be compliant by way of using information the right way.
Yes.
But ultimately also demonstrate to third parties that they're actually compliant in terms of how they're using information or the data that they have. So they are not putting that data to any risk. And should there be a risk, then they can also demonstrate that there's a way that this risk can also be addressed. So I will probably stop at that and maybe just get to here.
Yes, I wanted to come back to you, Barbara, about companies are very sensitive about their data. And the question I think they are always asking, if you're a company that is going to be storing their data like ADC, is that how secure is our data? So I don't know, Barbara, can you talk about, when you go out there and talk to companies about ADC, what do you tell them about the security of their data? What is you offering them?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So I can confidently say that we are the most highly secure data center.
In fact, I don't want to talk about ADC. I want to talk about security. Then I will go back to you and talk to you about how does it happen at ADC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, generally, security usually is two-way.
Yeah.
One, the security is a responsibility of the customer as well as the provider, the service provider. Now, coming to the provider, how do we ensure that security is above standard and we've guaranteed security for our customers?
Yes.
We start with the security from the very basic level from the gate.
Yes.
So first of all, we ensure that the customer or whoever is coming into the data center is an authorized personnel and has been vetted.
When we were coming in, I thought we were getting in an embassy.
Absolutely. Has been vetted, and we are sure of the type of person coming into the data center is not a threat to begin with. So there will be background checks that are conducted to ensure the level of people that come into the data center. Now, two, as you saw from the gate, we will have the dogs, we'll have the different types of technology that will also help us in ensuring that we have the right type of people coming in. And then that's the second layer. Then we'll have the third layer, authenticating where you're from, again verifying your purpose of visit and the team that you're coming to see. Then now finally at the data center itself, you will only be allowed to access the areas where you've been approved for. There will be pre-approvals that are done to ensure that you're in the right area that you're supposed to be in. And that is now just from a physical perspective in terms of who we allow into our data center.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about the physical.
Now that's where I was going to go.
Yes. Actually, I want to still remain there. when we were approved at the gate. We were approved to get in here, but when we went to second floor, we were denied entry. Why were we denied entry up there?
So I'd like my thank you, Barbara, and thank you. At least you were very keen to notice, and that is you testing our level of security and penetration. So. We have a multiple or a multi-level type of security, and we do that to ensure that we keep as the data custodians, we keep our customers' data safe, okay? And for that reason, you were denied access because we have a system that we've put in place that will clearly show who your approver was in terms of your gaining access into the facility, and two, the areas that you're allowed to visit. And it means it must have been red flagged on second floor because maybe they gave you or granted access on ground floor because of what you're coming to do. So the various floors that we have 4 data center floors, and on the 4 floors, we only give authorization to the specific floor where your server sits, okay? And we are giving you access based on your key, on the customer's key authorizers. So that access was denied for purposes of ensuring that our policies are adhered to, and the checks had been done by the security at the various levels to make sure that that floor had not been authorized for your access. So that is one. And we have, sorry?
No, sorry, cut you short.
It goes way and beyond just the floor level. It gets to the rack level. So we say at the data center, we have about, between 5 and 7, depending on how you look at it, layer of security. And that counts from the entry into the complex all the way to your rack level. Yes.
You wanted to add something?
Yes, she mentioned something very, very important. Assuming you are a customer coming to access your equipment and your equipment is in second floor, but somehow you end up in third floor, it would have we would get an alert of an intruder, and we would come first of all, you would be denied entry, and then that alert now would send, of course there's still someone there, but now additional members would just come to find out who is this who's come, why did they end up in the wrong floor, and again, other more checks will go into understanding why that has happened.
Yeah.
But that is very rare for it to happen, because remember, a customer will be accompanied from the reception up until the designated rack. So that is extremely rare for it to happen.
We have always been, Mr. Dan, we have been talking, there has been a lot of noise about data privacy. And here at Africa Data Center, I can see the kind of privacy that you give to your clients. But then, why do you think there is need to secure this data this much? I mean, generally speaking.
Information is power.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's what I would say. Information is power. Information is valuable. I mean, just look at it. I think for us who are here, we've been a privileged lot, and this means that we've had access to a quality education that has ultimately allowed us to execute certain roles.
Yeah.
That in itself means we access some valuable information somewhere,
Yeah.
and this was educational, so to speak. So information still today, as it is, still remains to be very, very critical to everything that we are doing, and affects our socioeconomic growth in whatever way. And lack of access to information prohibits or inhibits growth as well. So as it is at the moment, from a technology perspective, there's what everyone is today talking about. You need to think beyond what we are doing. We need to be thinking about the future. We need to be talking digital disruption. So any organization that is not innovative stands a risk of being disrupted, as opposed to being a disruptor. So if at all I can have access to a technology or some information today that will help us secure Africa Data Center's leadership position, I will hold that dear. And if I hold it dear, then I will classify it as internal and confidential information. If at all it's something that everyone has access to, then definitely it's less sensitive, and that means then it can then be accessed by everyone. So even if I was to take the approach of securing it, that will be at a cost that isn't really helpful, because ultimately anyone has access to it. So information is still very critical in terms of both growth, and lack of access to information definitely it prohibits growth. Now, I wanted to just maybe touch on what you were asking about data security. My colleagues touched on the physical security side, but we have the softer side of also making sure data and information is well protected. And the rule is, before the breach, or before you actually have your data from its physical format and transfer it to digital format, you must appreciate that there is going to be a risk. And the risk is, by it being on the digital space, you stand the risk that you've now had it open to a bigger platform of other actors that can access it, and they can access it by way of hacking, or they can access it by way of you not having secured it appropriately. So naturally they've had access to it because you probably used a very weak password for that matter. So you must deter. So that's what I wanted to say. You must think of deterring access to critical information. I think same way we have our passwords, and we have the multi-factor authentication, those sorts of things. Now, deterrence is one, but then the other thing you have to do is ask yourself, what happens should that information then be accessed? Then you must also have a mechanism to protect abuse or further access of your critical information. But last but not least, always do a post-mortem so that you prevent an reoccurrence of that information leak or information breach that you had. So ourselves as Africa Data Centers, we have conversations with our customers, and we make sure that we share with them that really the security matrix is such that this is my line of responsibility, and we also maybe...
And that is the question I wanted to ask. Because I mean, you have my stuff in your, let's call it a warehouse. And I have a breach. Do you think there is any time that a client is going to say, I think my data has been compromised at the data center?
it is very important that a customer does what we call responsible disclosure.
Yeah.
So responsible disclosure is something that is standard practice in terms of information technology. So a bank CIO today is answerable to central bank to demonstrate to central bank that the IT infrastructure they have at Africa Data Center is secure.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. That is something that they have to do, and they're obliged to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
And that is how comes we've been getting a lot of endorsement and support to make sure that, you know, we've already demonstrated that this is a secure environment. So additional banking institutions or financial service providers get that approval to bring the infrastructure in our space.
Yeah.
Now, that is mandatory. They have to demonstrate. So what happens
when they are demonstrating, that means that they also have to get this third party involved. They have to mention this third party.
Exactly. That has to happen because they have sort of made use of us as a trusted party. We've become an extension of their IT or information technology team. So they don't just look at us as Africa Data Center, but rather as partners.
Yeah.
So as CIO today, we are definitely in touch, and they get to share with us that really we need this. We need this approval so that we can bring our infrastructure in your space. So we need you to help us demonstrate how secure your space is. We need you to demonstrate how technically.
Demonstrate to them or demonstrate to the people asking?
Demonstrate to the people asking. It's and that is required. That is mandatory before they get that approval that, okay, you can then have your infrastructure go into Africa Data Centers. But really, they don't just do it for purposes of that demonstration. I think they do it because that is the right thing.
That is the right thing.
It is the right thing. That's what I always say. So we could be having industry guidance or industry requirements. We can be having regulatory requirements. But as Africa Data Centers, what we say is we don't even do it because the industry requires.
Yes.
We don't do it because the regulator requires. We do it because it's the right thing.
On top of what Dan has shared, I think he raised a very important term of know your provider. So we've gone that extra mile to try and ensure that the providers that we're engaging are vetted, and whatever customers that we are also bringing on board, it's critical for us to know that they also have the same interest in terms of protecting the customer data. And we've taken a further step to ensure that we get industry certifications in terms of regular audits, to ensure that we are able to provide the security that is required both to our customers as well as our third-party providers, because we are handling critical data for our customers. One, to ensure that we have the right team, the NDAs in place, and those contractors also understand the criticality of what we are hosting within the facility.
You talked about what is the word? I'm looking for that word, but let's just use that word. Taken care of by the central bank in the sense that they are told who is it that is taking care of your data. We want them to demonstrate. Well, somebody's talking to the banks about that. How about data centers? Who is yes, that's the word. Who is regulating the data centers?
If there's one thing I can always say, data centers are regulated by customers.
Oh, yeah?
I will say data centers are regulated by customers.
Yeah.
You don't get it right in terms of what customers want.
Yeah.
They'll naturally go to competition. So I will say it's self-regulating.
Yeah.
And it's self-regulating because we already have industry standards that you can use to design, build, and operate data center environments.
Yes.
So what customers will actually be putting any operator to task is to demonstrate that you've complied with industry standards.
Yeah.
If you don't comply, then naturally, we have an open market.
How does bank X know that you are?
We've got industry certifications. So the industry certifications, like an example, when I was talking about design, build, and operate, we have what we call Uptime Institute. It's a body in the United States that came up with, industry standards to classify data centers within 4 categories. The higher the category level from what they call tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, the higher the tier standard, the more resilient or the more robust that data center is. And that will finally translate to a customer's comfort in terms of a guarantee that environmentally and in terms of the data center requirements, you are going to give me this level of availability. What is availability? The number of times a customer will want to be trying to access their digital service, their digital application, or their digital content in your data center and not have any interruptions. And this is what I was talking about. So our guarantee is that you bring your systems here. If at all you are to panic in such a way that give us a window that probably if at all we had whatever happening, it should be that it doesn't cause a downtime beyond 8 minutes in a calendar month. Now when you look at that will be something that a banking institution will be comfortable with. But allow me to now go beyond banking institutions a little bit, because we also have another category which forms what Maggie was mentioning in terms of ecosystem, and these are the cloud service providers. And cloud service providers, who are these? I mean, the content we are using on our mobile applications, you're either on an Android, which is a Google, a Google operating system, or you are on an Apple, like I could tell. And that means you have an iOS or an Apple operating system in your phone. All that content, where does it sit? We say it sits in the cloud. I can tell you without a doubt, the cloud is where you guys are today. A data center is the physical manifestation of cloud. So all that content that you have on your mobile phones, all the content that enterprise customers use because they're using cloud-based applications, ultimately it sits in a server somewhere, and that server is within a data center. So all these, you talk of academic institutions accessing digital content, it's sitting in a cloud somewhere, or it's sitting in an infrastructure somewhere that sits in a data center. Hence our partnership with the likes of Kennet. So Kennet is an organization that we call them National Research and Educational Networks. They support higher institutions of learning so that higher institutions of learning can access digital content by way of accessing internet in a cheaper way, but also have a way that it can be a digital repository for all this educational content from higher institutions of learning, and in which case it's then easier for someone in Maseno University to access digital content that has actually been worked on by someone in Jomo Kenyatta University. And that collaboration helps a lot in terms of building our research content, and again ultimately helps in making sure that that information is not just packed, but it's used to innovate or do something that ultimately it relates to what the society wants.
Okay, great. We are coming to an end of this interview. The last question.
Just before you, let me add on to what Dan and Barbara have mentioned. In terms of us ensuring that we are able to secure or give the right industry standards, some of these certifications are customer driven. Because we are customer focused, and us being customer focused, a lot of information or feedback that we tap from our customers would actually drive us towards understanding what are their requirements. They're hosting with us. What would them hosting with us and them carrying out audits to ensure that the facility is in a secure site, what will it entail? So they'll give us feedback and tell us this is the certification we're looking for, will do support. So we leave it open and we try and ensure we're able to meet those standards according to the certifications that are required, and we make sure that we are actually certified by accredited bodies to just have like a continuous audit and ensure that we remain relevant in the industry. So one, that enables us to offer operational excellency, and also to ensure that we remain relevant in terms of our offerings to the market.
Great. As we come to a close of this conversation, I wanted to ask if if a client has their data breached on the cloud or anywhere, how is there any support that you give them?
So we support, and we support based on the security matrix or the responsibility matrix that is between us and our customers.
Yeah.
Any breach in the digital space at the moment, everyone, if should anything happen, what a customer should worry about and make sure that they do is to comply to a data protection law.
Yeah.
So say there's a breach in Kenya, you must make sure that you handle that whole breach in line with Kenya data protection laws.
Yeah.
And the Kenya data protection laws, the principles remain the same. We were actually some of the industry players that gave our input so that the Kenya data protection laws could not be built or come up with in isolation, but rather borrow from international best practice. So the standard is this. In case there's a breach, it should be that, number one, there is a law or there's a legal mechanism to handle that breach. And that legal mechanism has some steps to it. Number one is that responsible disclosure that I spoke about. Number two is a demonstration of how that breach can actually be, how can it be quantified? Does it have a financial value? Yeah. Does it have any, what value can we apportion to it? Now, while apportioning value to it, will there be any cause for concern by the regulator or by the government in terms of yourself not having been good in terms of preventing a breach? So if you didn't prevent that breach, then how do we, because that was an error of omission on your part. So if there is an omission on your part, or if there is intentional, something that you did intentionally to actually allow for this breach, then you must be held accountable for it. So the law also holds you accountable for it.
Yeah.
But last but not least, it also defines what exactly do we see as those critical data assets, because not everything is critical. So the data protection laws also defines what exactly is sensitive data. And sensitive data, I will say, ultimately is personal data. So if I am an institution that is storing or processing or transmitting personal data and using it for my business, then I must make sure that personal data is accessed the right way, is used the right way, and if at all it's going to be accessed by a third party, then I must disclose to the user, which is you and me, that I'm actually going to use your data or have it accessible to a third party. That's what we call data mining. When you go to the internet stores what you do. So your digital space is not that private. Your digital space is something that someone has some sort of insights that they pick from. So that data, if at all I am going to use it in a way that is known to you, then that's appropriate. If I use it in a way that is not known to you, I must come back to you and seek authorization. And if at all you don't give me that authorization, then really I am accountable should it then be accessed by a third party. But last but not least, where exactly should that data sit? That is the other thing that data protection helps with. So like Kenya data protection law has been borrows a lot from international best practice, and it simply says, let it be that you've used certain security standards to store, process, and transmit data, because those standards are available. And if at all you can demonstrate that the same environment is in a different geography from Kenya, then it's okay. What shouldn't happen is you having that data in another jurisdiction where security is not an issue and can actually be abused, or there are chances of abuse for that matter. So that's really what matters. Make sure that wherever that data is going to be stored, if you are talking about that cloud, demonstrate to the local government that really we are still processing, storing it, and transmitting it in a way that is in compliance with Kenya data protection laws.
Great. So we are coming to an end. So Mike, I would ask you this as a last shot. What would you tell somebody who's looking for a good data center?
Let me start by saying if they're not at Africa data centers, then they're doing their organization an injustice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One, the reason why they need to be here, we've been in operation for the last 10 years. That should count for something because it means we are there, we've been tried and tested, and we've been able to achieve 100% high availability. Not easy, where you have a lot of power interruptions. You've seen the substation that we've put in place. Our own investments just to make sure that we are giving our customers the high availability in terms of power that they require. So that's one. Two, why are you focusing on what is not your core? We are here, we have the right resources, we have excellent talent in Kenya in terms of qualifications. We've brought in a mix and blend of global expertise to just give you the world-class standard of service that you require as an organization. Three, we've built a rich ecosystem within the Africa data centers that we have. And that should count for you as an organization to be able to tap from thus whatever we put in place so that you're able to cut costs, save your organization, ensure that your business units have high availability. We are Pan-African. We are across Africa. If you're not here, if your data is not stored in Africa, then you're not African, okay? It is here because we have the right infrastructure and the right resources to ensure that wherever you're sitting within Africa, it's just a cable away for you to be able to reach those services. We have put in, we have brought in the exchange points for the local carriers and for customers to be able to save on connectivity bandwidth. So you reduce on that and you're able to have a stable connection to be able to also serve your customers. So it's that, and on top of a lot more in terms of our culture, in terms of how we treat you as a customer. That is key for us because it's customer driven, and when it's customer driven, we focus on customer 100%, and we don't build the infrastructure for our own consumption. We build it for our customers' use, and that's why we pay key attention to what the customers say.
Any last ones?
Yes, and actually just to add on to that, for customers who are even looking at expanding beyond Kenya, beyond East Africa, we offer the same level of service quality across our other operations across Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, and the rest. So they would feel exactly the same being in Nairobi, being in South Africa, because we offer the exact same level of services across. And again, we ensure that we keep our customers in mind, and we put our customers first, because what we value is if you get a good experience, you will definitely talk about us to someone else and to someone else and to and to other more people. And we're going to grow together through referrals, and also because you're happy being in Africa data centers. And that's something that we really hold dear to us.
And lastly, the future of data in data centers.
The future is bright. The future is bright. Trust you me, when we're talking about this whole digital disruption thing, it simply just means a lot of digital data that is going to be available. That digital data, where is it going to sit? We want it to sit in Africa. Ultimately, without players like us building this kind of infrastructure, this data then has not been sitting in the African continent. We've been accessing it from data centers of similar kind in Europe, in the United States. You know, that has traditionally been the concept. But we are changing this by making sure that if we have data that is actually required by end users or customers in Africa, let it be within the continent so it's quicker to access. Let it be that we can also economically, as opposed to us having our data, you know, in data centers in Europe or in the developed markets. No, we want to have data center facilities in Africa that can equally store data for customers in Europe. Yeah? And what I mean by that is, when you talk about these cloud players, look at the exciting things happening in Kenya right now. Amazon made an announcement they're bringing what they call an availability zone.
Yeah, what is that?
That availability zone that they're talking about is humongous data storage, processing, and transmission site that is going to sit in a data center in Kenya. But will it work in isolation? No. It has to connect to another availability zone. And it's because ultimately, as a cloud player, the other reason why cloud is seen as safe is because me and you won't know where that data sits. So ultimately, we want to also now be a supplier to data center, to cloud players, as opposed to being a consumer of data centers in the cloud space. And I think that helps in the economic growth as well. So yeah, let the skills in Africa equally, tap into this big disruption that is happening in the space. Let it be that we can also grow economically. Let it be that we can also be seen as an equal partner in the digital space in Africa. That to me is very key, and that's what I feel is something that we need to evangelize. And thanks to Core Media really for the support that you're giving the industry and other customers that you've got, because I think making sure that players like us are present and making sure that, again, our customers can have an understanding of what we do and what we hold for them in terms of the future is something that we need to continuously be doing. So,
great, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful conversation about data and the future of data in Africa. Thank you, viewers. I hope you enjoyed it. It's my first time coming to a data center, actually, and I really enjoyed the sound, the cold, and the heat coming from a data center. So until another video, thank you very much, and bye for now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.